process of increasing in size. A feature that is both individual, intrinsic, and throughout nature.
This is going to be so interesting, you know.
This is the moment we have been waiting for.
I'm feeling it now.
What has come before is now consigned to the history books. This new decade brings new challenges, new rivals, falling giants, and new beginnings.
Bang, bang, bang! 3 shots to the heart.
Oh, it's
back end. Oh no!
Those who are climbing will meet. Who will fall by the wayside, and who will embody growth.
There's still wheel to wheel!
That is unbelievable!
League of Europe, grow or fade.
Now, there we go. I don't know if my sound did go through, but if not, hello everyone, welcome back to the League of Europe. We are here for Division 2 for this evening. We are here for round 15, the USA Grand Prix, or the Circuit of the Americas, as everyone likes to call it. No, I'm not Verstappen. I hope I do not have some sort of accent. It did sound a bit harsh, but I kind of hope I don't have some sort of accent. I am going to be the one taking you through it this evening, and as you can also hear, the main man himself that is usually here every single week, Mr. Daka, is also with me this evening. How the fudge are you doing?
Thank you very much, Jack. Yeah, I'm doing very, very well this evening. It's always great to be alongside you in the commentary box, and I hope we have a great time here tonight. So very much looking forward to this next event coming up here at COTA. Round 15 of the championship. We are getting right into the business end of proceedings, and only 4 rounds left to go, including this one. And with a championship fight closer than ever as well. This race can be so crucial, and see if our 2 main championship contenders, I'd say, Rick and Hardy, see how they fare and see how they stand up against each other in these final 4 rounds, starting here at the Circuit of the Americas. Let's get this one started.
Yeah, no, as you said as well, it's the 9 points difference between the top 2, so it's still anything to play for. And speaking of that, of course, our championship leader of Mr. Rickarich has actually just gone on pole position with a 29.8. But as I said, there is a 9 points difference between himself and my ex-teammate that started in Division 3 of Mr. XL Hardy. He didn't do the first 4 races, and he's only 9 points behind the championship lead, so that just shows Hardy's. Well, I suppose Hardy's skill. I promise you, I'm not being biased towards XL, but no, he has done exceptionally well since he did start in Division 2, and I can see obviously you're saying ooh because a certain someone has decided to chuck it straight on pole position.
Yeah, XL Lando, of course, the race winner last time out in Japan, is immediately onto the top of the timesheets there at 129.4, right on the pace. And Lando, who's gone from strength to strength in recent races, continues to impress. And that is some margin to be beating the championship leader, nearly 0.4 of a second in front earlier on. So Lando, a huge lap then, and we'll see if that can... that's going to take some beating even at this stage. Therefore, a banker lap, that's a hugely impressive lap from XL Lando.
It certainly was, and I just accidentally went on board with Ryan, but I'm kind of glad I did, because he is currently purple in Sector 1 as well, so potentially looking to challenge his fellow XL member. Of course, 6 of the XL guys in here tonight. Sorry, 7. God, I'm losing count of how many people really are in XL. You would have thought I'd know, considering I'm in that as well. But yeah, Ryan I'm just sticking on board with at the moment in the Racing Point. I know so far this season he hasn't exactly had the season he would have wanted, so sitting down in P17 in the standings, but I know that, well, with Ryan's pace, if he doesn't, I suppose, bottle it, and I suppose it goes to the rest of the other guys as well. If he doesn't bottle it, I know that he can definitely be up there with those top guys, and sticking on board with the Brit in the Racing Point. He is just making his way up towards the penultimate corner now. A very quick left-hander that you take usually in 5th gear. It can be very easy to invalidate there as he comes around the final corner and up towards the line. Is it in comparison to Lando's? No, it's not. In fact, it's only just behind New Aloigi and Gary, also doing a 30.4. But Dan, tell me, who do you reckon is probably going to be one to look out for tonight?
Well, obviously you've got your 2 championship contenders to go over. I'm actually looking at the 2 Alfa Romeos of Baki and Slash. No bias on my end to QVR. There's going to be some inter-team warfare going on.
We're going to have that, aren't we?
But yeah, back in slash are both I'd say in terms of quality and that. Expect them, because they are both so quick over one lap, expect them to be right up the front. Of course, Slash was at one stage, I'd say, an outside bet for the championship. He seems to be too far away now, but keep an eye out for him as well. He's very quick in races, but I'd say even more so here in qualifying. Over one lap, I can tell you, that Alfa Romeo driver, both the drivers in that team are deadly. They're both now lining up on out laps, so see how they get on. I expect them to go very close and maybe even challenge Lando's time at the top there. Still sitting at the top of the timesheets on a 129.4, but can it, I'm sure it will all change there. Lando up at the top, but we have still almost 11 minutes to have that time toppled, and other drivers may be rising to the occasion, maybe going towards the top.
Yeah, no, of course as well. And I'm just looking on board as you were speaking about QVR as well. Mr. Spag and Chips, he is just making his way around the second to last corner, and we're going to see how he fares on if it's in contention with Lando. It did say he was purple sector 2, so is it in any contention? He does slot it into P3, and I know Spag, again, he's another one of those that hasn't exactly had the season he's wanted. I know he's finished on the podium once, but I know that there's been times where he could have done a lot more, and he feels like he probably could have done a lot more than what he has done in recent races, shall I say. So we'll keep our eye out on Mr. Spaghettips, or Lenny as a lot of people do know him as, but I was also just speaking of QVR, both Skyzy and Maledictus just chucking it into P7 and P8, a 30.5 and a 30.6. Pole time, I'd probably look to say, what do you reckon? A very low 29? Do you reckon any of the drivers can get 28s?
I definitely think a very low 29 is a good sort of ballpark to be reaching for, but seeing that Lando set that time so early on, I think that a 28 on a really good lap, I think a lot of these drivers may well be capable of 28s. It's just a matter of putting it all together when it really counts at the end of the sessions. Keep an eye out. I expect that you'll be seeing times around about just that 89-second mark. So keep an eye out. I think you can go either way of that side. But yeah, I think very low 29 is probably going to be a lap to look for, to try and aim for these drivers if they want to be trying to contend for that pole position.
Yeah, no, of course. And in fact, just looking into the YouTube chat as well, Packer's actually gone ahead and told me it's a full wet race.
Oh, wow.
So this is where it's going to get interesting. So we may not see the low times that we were expecting of the low 29s, maybe even high 28s. Well, considering that Lando's done a 29.4 already, we could potentially see it. But I'm expecting a lot of these guys to go out on wet setups and try and get as high as they possibly can on that wet setup, so then they're ready for the inter/wet conditions for the race. Slash just chucking it up into P3. Packer as well, he went into P5 and back, he putting it into P8 as well, splitting both Ryan and Gary in between there. Of course, the guys yet to do a lap are 4 of the XL guys of Ben or Tin Can, Dylan, Zardama or Dan, and Hardy. So again, another ones that we will need to try and keep our eye out on. But let's have a look. Who would you like to go on board with then, Dan?
I'm going to track XL Dylan because he did put in a very quick first sector, a 124 point, not 124, 24.1. So keep an eye out. Let's see how he goes then. Heading down to turn 12 then at the end of that 1 kilometre long back straight. You can't cut the inside of that corner though. The game does allow it, and rather unfortunately I must say. Apparently it's a purple middle sector, so we'll see how Dylan is able to shape up there as you get onto the brakes into the very difficult turn 15. Really hard to get to that apex and very difficult traction zone as well, but Dylan looks to be nailed on there. He's had such a poor run of form in the second half of this season after a great start to his campaign. Where can he go? Can he redeem himself here tonight? XL Dylan now in a turn 20, the final corner on the lap there. Attacks the apex, runs it out on the exit, and Dylan comes slow over the line, goes second at 129.6. That's much better than what we've seen so often from Dylan in qualifying. Zauderer coming behind him and does a 130.5. Maybe not the best lap from Zauderer, but Dylan, that is a far more impressive lap time, a 129.6. See how it holds out. But one thing I wanted to mention is that it's going to be so intriguing to see how the setups change things. You mentioned earlier that you're going to be seeing guys running wet setups, but some drivers in the field may well be compromising it more than others and maybe setting up for a better race and compromising their qualifying. So keep an eye out, because I reckon that Lando's time may well be that quick, because it may not be the case, it may well be the case though, is that he's gone for a relatively dry setup and focused more on qualifying, where some of the drivers further down the field may focus more on the race by running a more wet bias setups to help them out in the wet conditions we're going to see later on.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, qualifying, it's not exactly you can take points or anything from qualifying. I am expecting the majority of these guys to go on wet starts. Like you said, someone could have maybe tried to compromise it, get themselves up towards the beginning of the field, so then they can try and get at least a good enough start so they avoid anything going on in the midfield or anything like that, so then they don't compromise it. As Ryan, into the pit lane, has actually binned it. So not exactly good enough, but Gary was just looking on board with him. He has just come across the line, gone 0.02 of a second faster than Packer, so into P6 goes the Irishman. So a good lap time from him. And Hardy, the other championship rival of Mr. Rickarich, who's sitting in third, is just starting a lap. So I will let you take that one away then, Dan.
Let's get this one started then. So, XL Hardy powers out of turn 1 and a turn 2, the bit of a traction there. So coming out of turn 1, got to keep it clean. Now you're into this fantastic S section there. Little left, going through turn 5 for Hardy, but he's just about able to keep that on the road as he heads into the second sector. 24.4 isn't the quickest, I don't think. We saw the likes of Dylan going a few tenths quicker than that, so maybe Hardy's got a little bit more time to find. Let's see if he's able to accomplish that. Now you're heading into the hairpin at turn 11. I got that throttle on the exit yet again. DRS is going to be open, and then you're on the power all the way down here, getting up to the high speeds you're going to see on this track. And then it's a massive braking zone, braking about 100 meter board down into second gear. Clip the curve on the inside, you can run a little bit more than that. Hardy, a 1 minute 0.6 going through the second sector. Now you line up that turns 15 and 16. Hook up the entry and try and manage the throttle and exit there, using a bit of short shifting to keep the traction going. Now into the completely flat out turn 17 and turn 18. Now you're lining up the high speed right, the left, sorry, of 19, and now into the second left-hander there of turn 20. Try and get as close to the curb as you can to use the maximum width of the track. And Hardy is the sixth driver into the 129.01, 29.9 pops him into 4th place, just ahead of Slash, just behind his championship rival Rick. So Rick and Hardy very, very close out there as we're in a bit of a quiet point of the session at the moment. There, no one's really on a flying lap, so everyone's gearing up with it. 4 minutes to go, we're getting into the business end of it, and Lando's banker lap that he set right at the start of the session is still the fastest time we've seen so far.
Yeah, and as you were saying earlier as well, I feel like that might be the one that we will see as that as the pole position lap. I mean, we could see drivers go a bit quicker. I know Dylan, he looked like he definitely had it in him that he could go just a little bit faster than that 29.4. So we'll keep our eye out on that as we come towards the end of the session. Of course, only 3.5 minutes left to go of this session at the moment. Yeah, it's certainly sitting as an XL1-2 at the moment. Hardy in P4, Slash putting himself into P5 so far, was Spag in 6th. Again, the one that I'm trying to keep my eye on as well, really, is actually the two guys that are sitting in 6th and 7th, both Spag and Gary. Because Gary, of course, last season, I know he's done a couple of races in D2 already, but coming down from D1, I know it can take a bit of a blow for that to happen. I know he sort of instantly bounced on it and took a win over in Monza, but since then it just doesn't seem as if he's sort of had the drive that he had in the last season. So I want to be able to see if he is able to keep up with these guys, because I know this one, it's a lot quicker of a grid than what it was last season, I will admit. I know Cookie and Killer obviously being in D1 now as well, but it is definitely a quicker grid than what it was last season. So I am very, very intrigued to see how it's going to go if Gary is able to maybe even take a win for tonight. As I said, because obviously I'm in XL, a little bit biased, and I hope he does, but yeah, no, it would be interesting to see how the Irishman does fare on. Of course, him and Backy both moving down from D1 to D2 at the same time. It's been a bit of a battle in the points between those two guys, and they're only 4 points separate in the championship.
Yeah, and it's really intriguing to see how they all fare up, of course, coming down from Division 1, and they haven't really made the sort of splash that you might expect so far. So these seasoned Division 2 drivers from this season really picking up a fight. We're seeing one of them coming through there, of Mr. Skyzy, over the line, only up to 10th place, not his best showing from either of the Mercedes, really. They currently sit down there in 9th and 10th. They'll be looking for a little bit more later on in the session we'll see. I think that Maledictus is on a flying lap at the moment, and the Ferrari comes through and is about 400ths up going through the first sector, 24.3 through there. So we're getting into the business end of it now. Everyone pretty much on out laps or flying laps. We're getting ready to see out this qualifying session. Who's going to be on pole? Who will get up the front? But it's I'd say probably one of the less important qualifying sessions we've seen, because really the main I'd say predicament in front of the race is who's compromised their strategies, who compromised their setups for the race, and they can be the ones getting up the front here. So we'll see how this is all going to shape up here. But yeah, I think that the setup difference could make a bigger difference to the qualifying order than the actual pace of the drivers here in the USA. We will see, of course, 1 minute to go, but I think this qualifying order will not be translated to the race.
No, it definitely won't. And obviously, you're going to see a few guys, because I know that a lot of them are usually better in the dry than the wet. A lot of people will practice doing it in the dry rather than in the wet. Sash, he's going to be the first one to come across the line and actually do his first flying lap. So we're just riding on board with him as he comes across the line, puts it into P3. Maledictus is going to be the next one to come across the line as he does and goes up into P9. And as you can see, a lot of other guys are now just starting their laps. But I'm just seeing who else is actually currently on a lap. I believe the other Alfa Romeo of Baki is actually invalidated his lap, so he's just starting a new lap now. But I think going wide at the exit of the final corner, I think he might have gone a bit too wide, so I don't know if it's actually counting it as a valid lap, although it doesn't look as if it's counted it as invalid. So I think he is going to be carrying on with a lap, is the pole man. So we'll keep an eye out on him on the background. But I think who's going to be the next one across the line? I believe it's going to be Rick.
Rick's in front, but he's, according to my screen actually, he's validated his lap. He's still pushing though, so that might be a little bit of a graphical glitch on my end. We'll see if the championship leader is able to stack up there, heading through the final corner at turn 20, runs out to the curve on the outside. The Rick comes through, and it would have been pole, but that invalidation cost him there, and he has to settle for 4th place at the moment. Gary is going to be next up over the line, goes into 5th position then, just in front of Hardy. That's incredibly close down there. Next up out through his XL Dylan, but he's also invalid, and he would have also gone on to pole position. So that's 2 drivers making mistakes in our lap that have cost them dearly, so dearly. Slash is next up. He was 2,000s up going to that 2nd sector, but he's also invalidated. These drivers are all pushing to the limit, but they ultimately aren't able to put it all together when it all matters most. Now, XL10 can. We next up, coming over the line, goes up to 9th place there, 30.1. Packer, I think, came through behind him. Smag goes up to P2. Brilliant lap from the Ferrari driver to put it onto the front row for the time being. I think Hardy is going to be next up to cross the line. He's heading through that. I think there is actually a Renault in front. That is going to be Lando, as I think I saw someone moving up the grid.
Ooh.
As Lando goes even faster onto 28.2. Hardy comes through, goes 2nd. He does slow in it just in front of Smag, and that will be qualifying done. Lando on pole position by a massive margin, 4/10 of a second. Hardy settles for 2nd, but we're right down in 7th place. Hardy will definitely accept that. He'll grab that with both hands. Hardy, with 5 places in front of Rick, he has a really good platform to build on in front of the race and really cut that championship margin down.
Yeah, he certainly will. And the person that you were saying that you see move up, that was actually New Aloigi. He's managed to slot it up into P6. He was down in 12th at the beginning, and now he is up into 6th place. But there is your final classifications for the qualifying. You have Lando on pole position by 4/10 of a second. So what an outstanding qualifying session from him. Hardy into P2. Again, like you said, he's going to be taking that with both hands, especially ahead of Rick, who's down in 7th. Spag, I think, as Campbell has just said in the chat, and a little bit of an XL sandwich, he's in P3. Dylan in 4th with Slash in 5th. Neil Aloisi, as I said, in 6th. Rick in 7th with Gary in 8th. Packer in 9th, and Tin Can rounding out the top 10. Maledictus in 11th with Zardama in 12th. Skyzy in 13th with Ryan in 14th, and Baki, unfortunately, starting at the back of the grid. Didn't manage to get himself a final valid lap in the session, but Lando putting it straight on pole position, sort of leaving it off from last week in Japan, carrying on that form that he is now on. He could be one we could look out for, and he could play a bit of a part into this championship as well. And obviously, no, he's not in the championship, but he's definitely one. He can play a bit of part into it. You can try and help out Hardy as much as he can. I obviously know that XL and they're on different teams, but we could see him possibly try and help Hardy out a bit, or he might even get in the way of Hardy and allow Rick to try and catch up to him.
It's gonna be an interesting game. That these, of course, XL makes up I'd say nearly half the grid now in Division 2, so they can really play around with that. They have almost a bit of a monopoly, but we'll see if they are gonna race as a team or if they're gonna race against one another. Obviously, you know the guys better than I do. So, what do you expect the likes of Lando and Hardy up at the front? How do you think they're gonna play this?
Oh, I know that Lando is going to try his hardest to get that second win for him, but whether it means that he's also going to drag Hardy as much as he can, it could be a different story. As I know at the moment, I think Hardy is probably, or what he's going to do is just hope that he can just sort of sit behind Lando because of it being in the wet conditions. Lando may have gone on the dry setup, which is why he's done a 29.2 and was almost 4 tenths up ahead of everybody else. So that's the only thing I could really think of that could play into Hardy's favour. He could be on a wet setup, whereas Lando could be on a dry. But for now, it is all about the man in the banana car of Mr. XL Lando, putting it on pole position. It is intermediate tyres, so we are going to be seeing inters for pretty much the majority of the race, or all of the race, unless it does get a bit heavier. As you can see down at the bottom of your screens as well, the predicted pit stop strategy is just a one stop on the intermediates around lap 14 to lap 17. But, Dan, I'm going to ask you, what do you reckon top 3 is going to be?
That is going to be rather hard to call, but I'll try and make something of it. I will quickly point out is that actually I'd say about half the grid has underfueled their cars in front of the race. If you put up the telemetry, you can see that there's sort of a yellow fuel light on a lot of the drivers in the field. So they've opted for a rather unique strategy there. But as for the actual top 3 itself, I'm gonna. You know what? This is interesting warfare. Let's say Spag's going to win this one, sure, in the wet conditions. To my knowledge, he is actually quite good in the wet, so we'll see.
Yeah.
I think that I'm going to go Hardy for second, and I'm actually going to say New Luigi for third. I'm not sure if Lando may hold on to that. We can see. I'd certainly love to see Lando hold up to the front, but I do fear that he's maybe compromised the strategy a bit too much. We have Gary and Packer. They must come together. Going through on that formation lap there, starting from the back. But I know from racing Neil Luigi that he is very, very good in the wet, and I'm hoping to see big things from him here in this race, because I know that even after being demoted from D1, this season has gone particularly well for him. So we'll see what's going on, and we're seeing more drivers now taking each other out. That's Spang and Dylan now off the formation lap.
Yeah, for some reason, a lot of guys just seem to be coming to blows for some strange reason. But yeah, I mean, that means that Spag and Dylan, their tyres are going to be relatively cold. Gary and Packer, their tyres are going to be pretty cold as well. So, I mean, they may not get the slots that they would want. I think New Waluigi has actually got a chance. Racing him before in wet conditions, he does seem to be a bit of a rain merchant, I must admit. He is relatively quick in the wet, so I'm looking forward to seeing how New Waluigi is going to fare on in this intermediate tyre condition. I mean, it could be the case he could get another podium. In fact, he hasn't even gotten a podium in Division 2 yet, so he could look to pick up his first podium for tonight. But I think Hardy might end up taking his championship lead by the end of this race. It all depends on how Rick does fare on in these wet conditions as well, along with the other guys that are up ahead of him, whether he's able to capitalise on that one as well. But drivers are up on the grid. Dan, you know what to do. Let's take us through it.
I wasn't expecting this, but let's get it underway anyway. We have 5 lights ahead of the US Grand Prix, and we are underway. Who gets the best start? We on the front row. I think Lando got away pretty well there. He's going to convert that. Look at this charge on the outside from MMA Slash. A brilliant start from the Alfa Romeo. Can he go in the P2 around the outside of Hardy? He's going to get squeezed out there though by Spag. So off the road goes Slash and Hardy in a P2 now. Spag and Slash battling away. Going down into the S section. Dylan's made a decent enough start. He's wheel to wheel. Going side by side with Rick. Heading through that S section. Visibility is terrible down there. They'll keep it out of the walls. I see McLaren off to the side. That's Zerova going off. Going through the first sector. The lap recovers, but he's a long way off the rear of the field now. So Zerova going off then. In a bit of an hour going through that first sector. Off the line. Lando. Brilliant start. Shoots up into the race. Lead with Hardy trying to chase him down, but the gap is over a second already. Slash trying to put the pressure on. He got Spag off the line then. You can see a little bit of a chirp from the rear tires of the McLaren, and then Slash with the overtakes. He's going to try draw alongside him. Here we go now. Battling away. down the back straight. A turn 12 down the inside line. It's going to be with Slash. Can he get that second place? He breaks late enough, but still Hardy does not yield it right now. Outside, going to get squeezed out there, but he still won't give up. Now as the inside line, in a turn 13, wheel to wheel Slash has a bit more momentum on the outside, trying to struggle for traction, has the inside line in a turn 15 and turn 16. Slash gets into second place, and look behind there, because Dylan and Spag are still battling away in a turn 17. The inside line is a Spag, and the place will just about be the Ferrari, or will it? Dylan's coming back around the outside, has the line in a turn 19, brilliant from XL Dylan, but immediately gets a penalty, and Spag's coming back at him, going into turn 20 to the Ferrari, has the inside lane of the Red Bull. They're going to fight for traction on exit, but Dylan will come out on top, and he will get into that fourth place. Incredible battling up there. Dylan gets the place, but he's also got a penalty. Chaotic start here at the USA, but Lando has a hugely up in front already.
Yeah, he certainly does, and just a little bit behind as well. Obviously, Scuderia, Seb and Packer just battling there for that 14th position. Seb, of course, not being able to do the qualifying well, a bit earlier on. He did manage to get in for the race, so he started at the back of the grid, but already up into P15. Yeah, just going on that battle with Dylan and Spag. Of course, Dylan, I thought he was going to keep that move stuck as well. That would have been an absolute amazing move if he would have had that stuck up ahead of Spag from that. But I mean, well, of course, he did manage to get his stuck in the end, but a penalty on the first lap for Dylan, that's already a disadvantage for the Dutchman. He's now going to be worrying about everybody else, not only in front of him, but behind him, that could potentially may not even get a pen. I know around at USA it is very difficult to avoid getting any penalties. Obviously D1, D3 and D4 race you can just take a look at, and you can see pretty much nearly everybody got a penalty. So it is difficult to be able to keep it penalty free. But I mean, Dylan already with one penalty on the first lap is already an immediate disadvantage, because then he's still got the rest of the race to go and get more penalties up behind anyway. As looking a bit further behind, Gary, he was just in front of Tin Can, and now he's dropped down, and he's now being battled by New Aloysius. New Aloysius now down the inside, coming through the triple right-hander. Gary trying to hold it around the outside. Is the Irishman getting overtaken by the Belgiumese? That's not a word. By the Belgian. Yes, he did. New Aloysius into P8. And getting the move done on the Irishman. So Gary, not the start that he would have wanted, considering he started out in, I think it was P7 or P8. He's not had a good start to that, and now he's about to get overtaken by Ryan. As Ryan now trying to go down the inside, it's towards turn 1. He has backed off from that, but Ryan, he does look like he's getting a bit of better traction than what Gary is. Now trying to go around the outside of him in towards turn 2. He does back out of that one. So Gary, he just looks like he is hampering Ryan a little bit, and I don't think Ryan's going to be too happy that this is going on.
Yeah, Gary made a pretty major error coming off a turn 13 on the last lap. That was how Tin Can and Neil Luigi were able to get through. Neil Luigi made a fantastic overtake, and he set up with a move around the outside of turn 16. Look at Spag. He's all over the back of XL Dylan, going for a move. The revenge move on the Red Bull. Down the inside, gets it stopped and turned in, and now they're going to wheel to wheel, fight for traction. Spag squeezes him right to the curb at the edge of the track, and Rex going to take advantage. He's on the ascension as Rex, and he looks for 5th place. He will get 5th place, and now top 10 into the rear wing of Spag there. Looks at an inside layer of the Ferrari. Dylan has to tuck in with this one. Rick, half-hearted though, down the inside, surely we'll get this one. Spag will hold over 4th place. Dylan nearly goes round to the background Red Bull, just about able to keep it together, but he's lost places there, down into P6 there, as Spag and Rick both go through. As further down the field, Seb is now battling away with Skyzy, who claims that inside line, running wide in front of Maledictus, and Skyzy just about able to get tucked in and hold on in front of the Rhino, who comes under pressure from Baki as well. It's chaos here at USA, battles galore at the moment, but as for the top 3, well, let's have an update. Slash is reeling in Lando, cutting that gap down, and a fast slap there on lap 3. He is flying MMA Slash, and if he keeps this progress up, maybe in just a couple of laps time, he could be challenging Lando for the race lead. Lando in a brilliant start, but Slash already is beginning to reel him in here as we get onto the 4th lap.
Yeah, certainly our top 3 have already just clocked out from everybody else. Spag, the one that is currently sitting in 4th place, and Dylan, well, he's all over the place at the moment. Of course, with him getting overtaken by Spag and Rick, Spag giving him a bit of a squeeze to the point where Dylan's now had to back out of that. Rick then just took the biggest advantage out of that, and Rick almost getting the double overtake done, of course, down the DRS straight. But unfortunately, Spag just doing well. Like you said, he seems to be really quick in the wet, and it really is showing at the moment. He is managing to hold on to that P4 position. And another one that's just picked up a penalty is another XL member of the Irishman, Gary. So Gary, despite having quite a bit of a bad start to his race, he's starting to pick up the pace a little bit more, but that was also at the cost of a penalty. So Gary and Dylan both now need to keep an eye out on what they're doing for the rest of the race, because they don't want to try and pick up more penalties to the point where it's then going to leave them at a massive disadvantage. Another one that's also a bit interesting is Zardamat at the back. He's managed to catch up back to this pack despite having that spin on lap 1, so he could also be one that we could see flying up through the field, because I know, and knowing Zardamat as well in the rain, he is alright in the rain. I must admit he can hold his own, but I know it's not particularly his strong point, so getting past a lot of these guys as well, and especially in the wet, I know it's going to be a bit difficult. So maybe we could see him move up a few places, or he's just going to have to stay dead last at the back of the race. But you were saying about Slash now only 9 tenths behind Lando.
Yeah, he's got that DRS, although Lando has been a little bit better, a little bit kinder to his ERS. He runs close to 90%, Slash around 65-70%. So Lando has the upper hand in that regard, and that could help him with his defence should he need it. But Slash is still gaining, and he's cutting that gap down slowly but surely. Hardy struggling slightly to stay with him, gap 1.5 seconds. You can see a bit of a racing line now forming on the track. These drivers are all going to have to stick to on the intermediate tyres. I'm keeping an eye on the conditions. It's set a full wet race, and I think it's remaining pretty constant. I haven't really seen any sort of deviation in the rainfall. It stayed, I think, quite static for the time being. We'll see if it's going to change around, but given the indication that was set out to us by the drivers that we're going to get a full wet race, I can't see that's really changing, and we can see enters, I'd say, potentially from now all the way to the checkered flag. We will see, of course, the field, I'd say, just begins to spread out there. It's beginning to settle down out there as we head through the early stages of this race. Now onto the 5th lap, we have got a long race ahead of us. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Down the field, Parker's going to move past Baki, and surely now, as Zerdamat's going to try and look and follow through as well. Skiesy was lining up Mala, but I don't think the move's quite going to come here, and the Ferrari will hold the 11th place for the time being. So it is starting to settle down out there. Everyone just trying to get into a rhythm, but at the moment, the top 3 look pretty comfortable. I think Spag, out of them, out on this lap, I'd say, may even be the quickest driver of all of them. He's gapped Rick, and now he's caught that gap down to Hardy. It was just over 3 seconds. Now it sits at 2.3 seconds. So the Ferrari drivers really come into it, and the championship contending McLaren may have to look over his shoulder if Spag keeps this up.
Yeah, he certainly will. And then just, of course, a little bit of the live standings as well. It means that Hardy's only going to go to 4 points behind Rick. Rick, of course, doing what to get himself back up into P5 and trying to, get himself back up towards the top end of that grid. A little bit as well on going up ahead with Slash and Lando. Of course, Slash, like you were saying at the beginning as well, he was a bit in this title fight towards the beginning of the season. I'm not too sure, of course, what's happened between then, but he's looking like he's almost back to his sort of championship running ways. And when I was riding on board with him as well, he just looks a lot more confident in the rain than what Lando does at the moment, and you can really tell from it because he's now only 7 tenths behind the XL man in that Renault. But also just looking on board with Slash, when you were saying about the rain, it's looking like it's getting a bit heavier, so we could potentially be seeing full wet conditions possibly within the next 5 or so laps. But it does look like the rain is getting a bit heavier, and it looks like drivers are starting to struggle a little bit more out on these intermediate tyres.
I did think the rain was quite heavy at the start of the race even, but yeah, let's keep an eye out, see if anyone is going to be quite brave on the strategies. Of course, it may well go to wet conditions, but how long will it be maintained, and if anyone's actually going to risk that? I will say up at the front, Slash looked very quick, but he has had a bit of a wall there, and I think this is one of the things with racing in the wet, is there's much less grip when you're falling behind a driver because of the wake and the spray that comes off of the car in front. So Slash, I think, maybe has a bit more raw pace, but Lando, if he's not making mistakes, he can just hold him at arm's length at the moment, and Slash, with a little bit less grip as he closes up, is struggling to really get right into this one. And Lando using a little bit of ERS, he's still got plenty more in reserve. But Slash, that gap seems to be hovering now in around 1 second. So he looked really quick early on. But now he's hit that bit of a wall, and Lando's doing what he needs to do. And at the moment, Hardy, now over 2 seconds back. Championship contender struggling at the moment and is beginning to lose contact with the top 2 out on track.
Yeah, he certainly is. And yeah, Hardy, he's looking like he's sort of in a bit of a dull period at the moment. You know, 2 seconds up ahead is Slash, 2 seconds behind is Spags. So he's in a bit of a... he's got a little bit of clear air both in front and behind. But Spag, he is starting to gain on him ever so slightly as Tin Can in 7th place, picking himself up a 3-second time penalty. I'd also just like to say, Dylan, I know that, you know, he usually tends to brag as well about it whenever it rains. He's always enjoying it when he's in wet conditions, but he seems to be dropping back, and it looks like Tin Can is starting to catch up to him. So Dylan, I don't know what's happened to him in this wet race, but he just doesn't seem to be comfortable going forward in this one as well. And I mean, I'm kind of surprised to see that he's only down in 6th place, already having a 3-second time penalty to his name. Of course, probably later on we'll take a look at the pens just to see who's exactly got what, if anyone's getting more. But yeah, I mean, at the moment, it's just looking like a bit of a dull period from first all the way down into up to P7. Of course, New Aloisi and Gary are also pretty close to each other. New Aloisi coming a bit closer to Tin Can as well. But then again, New Aloisi, the only one in that little group from 6th to 9th without a penalty. So he's already up into P6. So we could be seeing New Aloisi just end up getting a bit, could be going a bit better later on in the race. Of course, Dylan and Tin Can and Gary, again, like I said earlier, they've got to worry about that penalty to their name. But I also have just seen that both Lando and Slash picking themselves up their fastest laps of the race so far. So those guys really are hammering it away at their times, and already almost a 3-second gap to Hardy behind.
Yeah, and it does also make me think, if they both just set their personal best laps there, doesn't look like the conditions are really getting away from them just yet. It does look incredibly heavy at the moment as the rain, but they do seem to be managing with it, and they're quicker than ever up at the front. Slash had a nice run going through that first sector, but Lando in general doesn't seem to, I think he has a little bit more straight line speed than Slash, maybe running a little bit lower wigs, giving him less drag there. Slash is a little bit closer on this lap, but Lando has about 30% more on the ERS. He can use that to pull away, and even with the slipstream, Slash could not get up to him there. That gap remaining static. So at the moment, Lando is doing what he needs to do. Slash looks very confident on the brakes versus Lando, but Lando seems to be very good coming out of the corners, and that's just equaling out and cancelling out. So Lando's doing what he needs to do. Slash looked so quick earlier on, but he still hit that wall, and Lando doing a superb job of holding it there. They're both now 3 seconds clear of Hardy, who continues to struggle to live with the pace of these top 2. Lando was so good in qualifying, and I was expecting him to drop back, but it seems like he must have left something in reserve for his wet setup, because he's driving brilliantly at the moment, and only Slash is able to live with the Rhino driver's pace at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I was also the same. I was expecting Lando to start dropping back a little bit further as well, because I thought he was running a bit of a dry setup, but he must have just put in an absolute amazing time if he'd done the 29.2, and he's still managing to take the lead of this race, unless all the other guys decide to go on a dry setup, which I wouldn't have expected them to do that. But I mean, at the moment, yeah, he's doing an absolute incredible job for staying up ahead, especially getting 3 seconds up ahead of the championship rival of Hardy. And yeah, I mean, both him and Slash are just driving absolutely impeccable at the moment. Another battle that actually seems to be occurring now is New Aloisi all over the back of Tin Can coming through the S section as well. I think Tin Can just having a little bit of a moment going through turn 1, and New Aloisi, just look how much more confident he is going through that S section in comparison to the Racing Point just up ahead of him. I mean, we could be seeing a move potentially going on very shortly, as yet another XL member has picked up a 3-second time penalty. It is Ryan in 10th position, picking himself up a 3-second time penalty. So far, 4 out of the 7 have got themselves those penalties, and now New Aloisi really is just feeling himself at the moment. All over the back of Tin Can as Packer picks himself up a 3-second time penalty. New Aloisi 70% of the RS compared to Tin Can's also 70%, but both using that as much as they can. Of course, no DRS, especially in the rain. New Aloisi not close enough. Tin Can does do enough just to make sure he does stay up in P7 at the moment. And then I think a battle actually going on, a bit of a QVR rivalry potentially as well. Maledictus and Skyzy battling here for P11. Maledictus just getting a bit of a better exit coming out of that long DRS straight. Of course, no DRS enabled because of the wet weather, but Skyzy, he is hounding all over the back of the Portuguese, and Maledictus a little bit of a wide entry going in towards the hairpin, so I'm surprised Skyzy wouldn't have maybe tried to take a bit of an opportunity from that, but it does look like Mala's taken that perfectly fine, and he does stay up ahead of the Frenchman, but New Aloigi still hounding the back of Tin Can. Are we going to see a move come out from him?
We'll see. Of course, overtaking in the wet is so much more difficult in this track than in the dry. We also saw Scooter Rusev just pick up a penalty there. They are beginning to rack up now at a track where it is notoriously difficult to keep it within the two white lines, and we're seeing more examples of that yet again, but all the top five are still clean at the moment and still pulling away. Dylan cannot live with them at the moment. Up the field a little bit, Spag is continuing to plug away, and he is catching Axel Hardy now in a second. The Ferrari driver, I think, on balance, may well be the closest to the top two in terms of raw pace, and Hardy's still not quite living with it. Gary, I think, is the first driver to pick up a second time penalty. He's now running on 6 seconds in, so the Irish for the AlphaTauri is quite a bit up against it, I'd say, at this stage. It's going to need to hope for better fortunes later on in the race. It's relatively stationary out there on track. There, everyone just sailing into their rhythm. No real mistakes, I'd say, from everyone. They're all keeping it nice and clean as it stands. And yeah, these battles just beginning to form, but no overtakes coming just yet. Still, Lando maintains the lead from Slash as we got into lap 10 of this race now. I'm expecting pit stops maybe to start coming through quite soon. We'll see how it all unfolds. I think one stop on the Inter should well be possible, but we'll see if they can make it. Let's keep an eye on these next few laps if anyone's going to bite the bullet and come into the pit lane as we near the halfway point of the race.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the tyre strategy, when it said predicted pit stops, I never usually take note of that, and I don't think a certain Mr. QVR Campbell does either. He does not like those AWS graphics, and to be honest, I don't blame him. It did say lap 14 to lap 17 for the intermediates to pit, but I'm expecting probably a few guys to maybe make their pit stops within the next 1 to 2 laps. Of course, no one coming in as of yet. I know that the intermediates, they can go to about lap 12, lap 13, and then that's when you really do need to make that pit stop. A little bit further on behind, Baki just getting past Packer. Of course, Packer with that 3-second time penalty. Seb, like you said, picking himself up a 3-second time penalty. And Gary, yeah, you are correct. He is the one with the second 3-second time penalty. So 6 seconds to Gary's name already. And we're not even halfway through this race as of yet. And it looks like a bit of a battle still going on between Packer and Baki. But I'm looking at towards the top end of this grid. Slash, he's starting to reel in Lando a bit more. Although, as I say that, he's just dropped about 2 tenths behind him. So we're going to just go off board with that one. And we're going to go on board with the battle here for third place. Spag, he's driven so well so far in this race. And now he's all over the back of Hardy, and this could be Spag's second podium we could be seeing in this season. I mean, he's all over the back of one of the championship rivals, and at the moment Rick, of course, only being 1 second behind him as well. He looks like he's starting to hand the back of Hardy, and coming up to the back of Hardy, shall I say. As you can see, he only just dropped down to just less than a second between him and Spag now, so both of those guys behind Hardy are just looking a lot more comfortable in these wet conditions in comparison to the McLaren.
Yeah, there is a battle between championship rivals, championship contenders, maybe shaping up. And down the back of the field, Packer actually runs into the side of Zanima, who gets the move done, but Packer is really having a hard time of it. He has had a pretty solid championship campaign so far, but in these wet conditions, the American seems to be faring a little bit worse for wear. As it stands at the moment, Slash is railed the back of Lando though. Can he go for the race lead? Down the inside goes the Alfa Romeo. Can he get it stopped and turned in there? It's actually Lando that now breaks himself, runs wide onto the curb, and let me Slash now has the race lead. Further down the field, Tin Can is the first driver to bite the bullet. He dives into the pit lane, but Slash, brilliant. Finally, Lando gave him the opportunity. Must have made an error coming through the last corner, and he let him go. Gave up the place, and now Slash runs into the race lead. He's used a lot of his ERS, but he did exactly what he needed to do. Slash now leads, still already got a second on Lando. Can he now with clean air maybe pull away? Slash at the moment could be off of this one. He's so good in these wet conditions. I didn't even see this coming, but everybody Slash is cruising up in front. There's a comfortable lead. Slash is flying at the moment.
Yeah, he certainly is, and what a move that was from Slash indeed. 1.1 seconds now already splits those top two, so you can really tell how much Slash was just waiting for the best opportunity, and I think Lando's tyres, I think he was pushing that as much as he could, because now he's having to stay, well, he's already a second behind, as Spag straight down the inside of Hardy, going towards the end of the DRS straight. Hardy does manage to maintain that one on the outside, and now Rick may try and capitalise on that move going on, but no, he has to stay behind for now. But Spag, you can see he's getting a little bit impatient with Hardy just up ahead of him. Hardy, he's doing everything he can to try and stay up into P3, but Spag, I mean, he's really hounding the back of the McLaren. So, I mean, we could be seeing another move going on from that. And as I said, Spag, I think he is on for his second podium for this season.
Yeah, he is looking very, very quick, and he's dives in with Hardy, so they both come into the pit lane at the end of lap 12. Rick will jump them, and Slander was in as well. He must push those tyres to the limit. So now all four of them are now in, because Dylan has bit the bullet as well. Now Spag actually came into the pit lane. He's gone earlier boxing than Hardy, so is he going to be able to jump in front then? We see the Ferrari emerging from his pit box, but he is still behind. Hardy will maintain that position and will get out. Lando's been held up completely. Lando's behind them both. I'm not sure exactly what's happened. He must have had a wing change. That may be why he lost so much speed. Lando now runs behind Hardy, behind Spag. He now runs in what may well be a net P5, net P4 maybe in this race in fact. But Slash now surely 6 seconds in front of Rick, who was that battle with Hardy. Slash may have an incredibly comfortable lead in this race. Lando must have had damage.
Yeah, he must have done. There was no way that Lando could have been held up by a lot of the guys coming into the pits for that long. So Lando, I mean, it was going so well for him at the beginning of this race, and as you said, he must have gotten himself some wing damage somewhere. No idea where, but I mean, you are right. Slash is 5.9 seconds or 6 seconds up ahead of the next car, when Rick was also in this battle between Hardy and Spag. Slash is going to have an absolute comfortable lead as soon as he makes his way into the pits. I mean, I say he'll have a comfortable lead. He's going to come out, I reckon, around where Baki and Scuderia Seb are at the moment, who are yet to make their pit stops, unless, of course, they pit on this lap, which is highly possible. So, we'll see if Slash it does manage to maintain his race lead. As yet, he does make his way into the pits. And does our championship leader, the Finn, the almighty Finn, shall I say, of Mr. Rickarich make his way into the pits? Yes, he certainly does as well. Neil Waluigi, is he going to follow suit? He certainly does. Ryan, I believe he will also make his way into the pits. No, in fact, yes, he does. He did just bait me out ever so slightly there. But, yeah, so the rest of the guys now making their way into the pits. I'll say that, Baki actually stayed out. So Baki, the only one that has actually stayed out. And in fact, he's still going to come out behind Slash. Slash still taking the race lead. And Rick, I mean, he's just been jumped by Hardy. In fact, no, Rick actually comes out ahead of him.
Where Rick is?
He's come out ahead of him.
Hardy's going to draw alongside though. They're going to go wheel to wheel. They're turn 2 championship contenders are side by side here. Now to turn 3, Hardy will claim the inside line. So risky, had to get out of that one. And runs into the back of the Williams though. It's going to run out wide. And now Spag around the outside. Going to get that one down to Ferrari. Has the inside with the left hander. Yes, he's done it. Spag gets the move done finally on Hardy up in the 4th place. He took advantage of that. And Hardy made the mistake in the end. Lando now runs on behind the XL driver. They share the front row of the grid. Now they're sharing the same piece of tarmac yet again as they head down and to the hairpin of turn 11. Hardy almost maybe should have just hung back a little bit more, but he made that error and lost out to Spag, and now Lando's on the ascension again. He gets right up onto the rear wing of the McLaren, and Nice losing places here as Hardy, but Hardy will just about hang on to it in front of XL Lando. They now run though behind this train. Rick, a superb strategy call. What a superb in-lap it was. He now runs in a net 2nd place. Rick's done superbly well, and after qualifying that worked so far against him versus Hardy, he now looks like he may be on to extend this championship lead if he keeps going.
I was not expecting that. I thought Rick actually got jumped by both Hardy and Spag, but he must have gotten out of the pits to the point where, well, he was, as you could see, he was up ahead of him. So Rick, he played that absolutely perfectly, and as you said, he's now in the net second. And interestingly, a note as well, Spag, I mean, of course, with him setting the fastest lap of the race, which has now gone to Dylan, Spag is now in between the two championship rivals. So Spag, he's really going to be playing a massive part against both Hardy and Rick, because if Spag can get past Rick, then we could really see these two championship rivals go toe to toe, and along with Lando being in that background as well, I think we've still got a massive race up ahead of us, Dan.
I agree wholeheartedly on that one, Jack. But remember that Hardy was caught in the first stint by Rick and Spag. Now he needs to try and return the favour if he wants to stay in that battle. And Lando is also searching there. He'll be furious after what happened to him in those last few laps. He still may have a top 5 on his hands, but he's also got Dylan now. He does have 6 seconds of penalties, but he is caught this battle. And he now runs up behind the Rhino. Doesn't get the best exit the one to the straight he will have to sit back and maybe fight another day then. Lando is still chasing down, trying to get up to him. We have yellows down the back of the field. I think that's Packer who's going off in that first sector. He's had a dreadful day, has the Haas driver. And Haas in general, of course, with him, I believe, being the only driver on the grid for them.
We've got another battle, sorry, Dan. We've got another battle here that's going on for P7. Tin Can and New Waluigi both side by side going through the DRS, the end of the DRS straight. Tin Can just managing to hold it down the inside. New Waluigi, I think, was just trying to take the long route around, and now dives it down the inside in towards the hairpin. Does he get the move done? They're both still wheel to wheel, and New Waluigi getting that move done. I think Tin Can just did not get the traction out of that corner. Now the Belgian is now up into P7, and of course with Dylan having those penalties as well, I know he's around that 6-second gap in fact. So now New Waluigi's still got to do a little bit more catching up to do if he wants to make sure he can still get that top 6 finish. But what a move it was from the Belgian, as Packer once again unfortunately going around at the beginning of sector 3. So Packer, it's just not been a very good race for him at the moment, and he's now 24 seconds up the back, and unfortunately has gone around once again.
Yeah, Packer having a miserable day. It looks like he may even have a puncture the way that car's driving. I don't think he does, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he was to come into the pit lane to just wrap it all up at the end of this lap. So let's look though towards the front of the field. Rick looks as Lando gets a penalty as well, and that could really hold him back. He won't lose out anything at the moment, I think, but that could be a bit of a poor sight for him as it stands for the time being. Look at Spag though, he is flying up to the back of Rick, really piling the pressure on, and he looks as Zerba gets a penalty. That's not something you see any day by any stretch of the imagination. So Zerba getting a penalty as well. Most of the front runners are good, but I think hardly anyone else is, as of course Packer does inevitably pull into the pit lane after a disastrous race. That could really knock him in a championship fight in the sort of around 6th place area, I believe. But let's see how his rivals were able to get up there. Slash is one of them, and he leads this race now by nearly 7 seconds. What a commanding drive this has been from Slash. He's had so many near misses this season, but this may well be his best chance of a win. And he runs so far clear, looks absolutely in imperious form. And Rick, I think he's matching him for pace, but he cannot really win. And Slash at the moment, can anyone stop it? The Alfa Romeo has got a commanding lead, nearly 7 seconds in this race. Can Rick, Spag, Hardy, or anyone else possibly close that gap down as we're now well into the second half of this race? Slash looks on for this at the moment.
Yeah, I think any sort of mistake that Slash makes is where Rick, Spag, Hardy, they're all going to capitalise on that one for sure. Going back obviously to what you were saying about Zadama. Ooh, Slash, 3-second time penalty. So, I know he's still out of that DRS, well, not out of DRS, sorry, out of the 3-second zone between him and Rick. But, as I said, one slip up from Slash, and Rick could be well within of touching distance for taking the win and extending that championship lead to possibly almost a race win.
Yeah, that's certainly one to look out for. A little bit of a chart for the rear tires of Hardy. Lando still chasing him. Lando, I'm sure you just seen, got a penalty on this lap. That's the second penalty in just about as many laps. So his race has really come undone in the last few laps. He had to feel for the guy because he drove such a brilliant qualifying and such a great first stint as well. But it has really started to work against him in recent laps. Can he get past Hardy though? Hardy looks to be struggling at the moment to really find grip from the rear tyres of that McLaren. Lando lining him up, but does not quite commit to the moves that stands. He still runs in that 4th place. Ricoeur and Spag still holding down his Slash is out of the session. He must have disconnected. Can he get back into things now? That'd be so gutting. Slash, we'll see now. He surely lose so much of that race lead. He does still have a decent advantage up the front, but if he can't get in anytime soon, then surely Rick and Spag are going to chase him down here.
That's so unfortunate for Slash, lagging out of the session, and it also says that you have also disconnected from the session, so hopefully you can obviously get yourself back in relatively soon, as there are yellows in Sector 3. That is Gary that has gone around just at the beginning of the pit entry, and he's gotten that front right damage, so I don't know if it was a bit of a traction thing, but Gary into the pits, and I'm assuming we might see him end up retiring from the session anytime soon, as Ryan and Tin Can both changing positions as well. So the two racing points just quickly having a bit of a swap between the pair of them. Gary does actually opt to stay out, and in fact has gone on a set of the wet tyres. So Gary, he's taken it, like you were saying earlier, he's biting the bullet and he's taking it on the wet. So I'll keep an eye out on the Irishman and see how he does fare on going through into the rest of the race, and seeing if those wet tyres are going to be quicker than what these intermediates are, because the rain is still chucking it down, and it could be the changing point. Meanwhile, Slash still unfortunately hasn't managed to get himself back in the session as of yet, and now the gap is 3.5 seconds. So what was an absolute commanding lead for Slash, the one that's sitting 3rd in the championship, he is now gonna have to do it all again when he does get himself back in the session, if he does get himself back in the session, because it just looks like, well, it doesn't look as if he's back in the session yet. And Rick, he's now only 2.5 seconds, so I feel really sorry for Slash, because that was his opportunity for him to be able to take his first, well, not his first race win, his race win in quite a long time. In fact, it would have been his first race win this season, so it's just so unfortunate for him. But Rick now 1.6 seconds. Spag, I will say, is now in actually a 2nd place. So Spag is still only 7 tenths behind Rick, and really he's doing an absolutely exceptional job. Him and Rick seem to be just on an absolute another level from everybody else behind him at the moment.
Yeah, also I don't expect Slash to get back in, because I cannot get back in. It's saying the session no longer exists.
Oh dear.
For me, as Lando's now gone.
Yeah.
No, I think the lobby's falling apart here, if I'm honest.
Oh no. Oh dear, oh dear. Gary's gone round on those wets, so I can definitely tell you now it's not wet tyres, but yeah. Slash's Ghost, he's dropped now behind both Spag and Rick, so yeah, a few guys now lagging out. It's very unfortunate. I'm just trying to see who it is that are still in the session, and if anybody sort of said anything in the Division 2 chat. I can't see anything at the moment, so it's looking like it might be, we are just still carrying on at the moment. But very unfortunate for Lando as well. Both Lando and Slash, who had very good getaways at the start, are now, well, they're unfortunately now out of the session, and I don't think that they can actually get back in. I will try and maybe get some invites sent out, but I mean that's going to be a bit of a stretch still, and even then Slash is still down in P3, which in fact Hardy is just about to go past Slash now, so Hardy now into 3rd position. Of course, top 3 still without any penalties at the moment, and Dylan, despite having a bit of a ropey start, he's now up into actually a P4. But Nuala Luigi, without any penalties still to his name, he's 4 seconds now behind Dylan. He's been gaining on him from I think about 5 tenths or 4 tenths each lap. So the Belgian doing a very, very good job in these wet tyres. And like I was saying, you need that's the guy we really need to try and keep our eye out on. I know I'm assuming at the moment you're just sort of watching the stream to see who's where at the moment. So I'm just trying to see if I can get everything as much as possible. But again, a little one down at the back as well. Of course, you've got Seb, Mala, Skyzy and Baki, 3 out of the 4, 3 out of the, I think, 4 QVR members in this race, all having that battle there for P10. Of course, Seb, like I said earlier, he did not participate in the qualifying, and to be up in the P11, to be fair, is still pretty decent. So he's doing a decent job at the moment, sitting in 11th, potentially could look to get moved on Maledictus, but at the moment he's just having to sit pretty behind him. I'm not too sure what the penalties are actually looking like, so I'll take a quick gander at those. So Dylan has 6 seconds of penalties, so he's going to be potentially losing out to Slash, as Gary has gone around once again on those wet tyres. He's currently sitting on 9 seconds of penalties, and I'm assuming we're going to see the Irishman potentially retire on this lap. I'm assuming he'll probably come into the pits at the end of this lap and retire. Yep, in he goes with half a front wing and retiring from the session. He's in fact actually on those intermediates as well, so he did already make another pit stop. Yep, there we go. So Gary unfortunately retiring from the session. But yeah, I mean, as I said, going through all of the penalties at the moment, Dylan is looking like he will lose out to New Aloigi. It doesn't look as if anybody else is sort of closer that Dylan could be losing out on. So New Aloigi technically is in a net P4, and if he keeps up the way that he is at the moment, we could potentially even see him catch up to the back of Hardy. I know he's Dylan's only 9 tenths behind Hardy. New Aloigi, don't count him out of getting a podium for tonight.
He is flying, there was no doubt about that, and we stressed this at the start of the race. He is very, very good in the wet conditions, and we are seeing the evidence of it now. So can the Mercedes driver keep that charge going? He will certainly get Dylan as it stands. Dylan has shown much better pace, but those penalties that he picked up at the start are really working against the Red Bull. He had, as you mentioned, a shaky start. Really come into his own, but maybe just those almost sins they had. Slash still got back into the lobby. So yeah, he's managed to get back in as a whole. But yeah, what's going on, Jack?
I was about to say, I hope that you are going to try and get back into this session as well, as something's just happened on my end as well. I'm not too sure what is going on, but yeah, no, I still seem to be in. That's fine. So yeah, Spag, Rick still just doing, of course, what they're doing at the moment. I know Spag is really eager to try and get his first win in League of Europe, and he is definitely on for getting himself that first win of the session. Is that you back in? Is that you back in now?
I am back into the lobby finally, so it looks like whatever issue it was has sorted itself out.
Good.
I won't rant too much about Codemaster servers. I think I can spare that
do it
for
enough.
a later date. Yeah, that's very true. Let's focus though. We've got about 7 laps to go in this race. Let's make it a good one, because the battle for the win between Rick and Spag is still very much on. That gap's still under a second, and Rick, he got that lead a little bit earlier on, but Spag is not letting off the gas here, and he's keeping that pressure on.
Yeah, he certainly is. I think Spag just on that last lap was just a little bit, was just sliding ever so slightly a bit more than what Rick was, and Rick, of course, taking the biggest amount of advantage of that. 1.2 seconds now splits both Spag and Rick. Although saying that, going through the S's, Spag just instantly making up 3 attempts on the championship leader. So, like you were saying with Spag in the wet, he's doing an absolutely exceptional job. And Dylan as well, just looking at his gap between him and Hardy, he's dropped off now. He's 1.8 seconds behind his fellow XL member. So Dylan, I don't know what has happened to him. I don't know if he had a moment or what's happened, but he's now, in fact, it's now 2 seconds he's now behind his fellow XL member. And Dylan, of course, with those 6 seconds of penalties, he could even be under some pressure from Slash.
Yeah, that is a point actually, so Dylan needs to try to turn things around. I'm keeping an eye out. I don't think he's got any sort of wing damage. No, his car seems perfectly fine, but Neil Luigi is now beginning to reel him in as well, getting right up onto the back of the Red Bull, and I definitely don't even think Hardy is completely out of sight either, so Neil Luigi is certainly a podium contender, I'd say, at this stage. Would be a great comeback after I think he was down in about 9th place at the start of the race, so he's had an incredible fight back here in this race. I'm not looking away though from this battle over the race lead. Rick has done very well, has not made any sort of major errors, and you'd think at the moment Spag was in front of him on the track. If Spag can't reclaim that, it would have been that brilliant outlap that Rick put together that set him apart. 1.4 seconds is the gap, he's beginning to pull away. He was quite a bit quicker on that last lap, so Spag may be struggling a little bit, making some mistakes. mistakes at the moment. We've got 6 laps to go, and Rick's doing exactly what he needs to do. What an incredible victory, and how important it will be to his championship chances. He started this race well down the field, I think in 7th place. He's fought back to the lead. Can he hang on to it, though? Spag is still chasing him down, and he's so good in this first sector of Spag. Look at how effortlessly he cuts the gap down. Now under a second, but can he make it stick throughout the rest of the lap and put that pressure back on? Rick still holding out for the race, but Spag is not letting that go. Less than 6 laps to go here in this race, and the battle for the win is still hanging on a knife edge here.
Yeah, it certainly is. Spag, as you were saying, he just seems to be really good throughout the first sector. His new Waluigi now that gets that 3-second time penalty. He was on for possibly a podium if he would have gotten past Dylan and tried to catch himself up back to Hardy. But now he's going to catch up to Hardy and get up to the battle between Rick and Spag if he wants any chance of still remaining on that podium, unless Hardy, of course, does pick himself up a 3-second time penalty. But new Waluigi, yeah, he's now all over the back of Dylan for this P4. Of course, Dylan, he will drop behind him unless new Waluigi does pick himself up another time penalty. But at the moment, from how it stands, and him only just picking up his first penalty, I don't see it particularly happening. The only thing I could really see is if a safety car was to come out, and then we just have absolute racing going on from the back of the, well, from the end of the session, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm very intrigued to see how this is going to end up going. So yeah, as I said, we'll have to keep our eye out on it and see how it goes. But the battle for the lead of the race is just looking like it's looking very interesting. 1 second between Spag and Rick at the beginning as well. So we'll keep our eye out and see how that goes.
Yeah, and I can tell they are dead level. They've got exactly the same amount of VRS. Could not be more evenly matched. But track position could make the difference, and Rick is still holding that advantage. What? I'm actually going to check at the warnings. Spag is still so good to that first sector. Rick, according to the race director, has 2 warnings. Spag has just 1. So keep an eye out there. Rick cannot afford to make a mistake at this stage. Spag is still keeping the pressure on, and it could be, and Spag nearly going round, coming in at turn 10. An incredible save to keep that on the road. He tried to put it on the overtake mode, nearly paid the ultimate price. He just held on to it, and he'll be counting his lucky stars. Can he use that to good effect to the end of this race? But further down the field, New Luigi could well be attacking XL Dylan here. The ERS is now in play, but also in defence from Dylan. He's powering away down the back straight. I think he will just about hold on to that 4th place. Still wet conditions. The intermediate tires, I think, has been the tire of choice all the way through. We saw Gary go for that strategy. Did not work out at all. And of course, he's now no longer in this race. So it looks like it's going to stay that same strategy to the end. We now just have 4 laps to go. And Rick's had a solid lap here. Gap is 1.4 seconds, but with 2 warnings. He cannot afford to have another off-track venture. He has to stay within those white lines. And that pressure will mount on the last few laps. So Rick, he's driving well, and he's got that gap out ever so slightly. But it is not over by any stretch of the imagination. Spag so has a fantastic chance of winning this race. 1.4 seconds is the gap. 4 laps to go here at Kota.
Yeah, it certainly is. And new Waluigi, I mean, 5 tenths now just separates him and Dylan. He's done an absolutely exceptional job of just being able to catch up to him. And Dylan, I also just want to say, he's starting to catch back up to the back of Hardy as well. I don't know what's happened to Hardy, but he really is now only 1.3 seconds behind. I think he was about 2.8 a couple laps ago. So Dylan, he's, again, another exceptional job of making his way back to, well, his fellow XL member. And again, new Waluigi, this podium could still potentially be up for grabs. As I said, Hardy, I don't know how many warnings Hardy has, but there's still that potential he could take the race, could still take his podium as well. But I mean, further on down the field, look at this battle we've got going on for P8 here between Tin Can, Maladeb, Skyzy and Baki. And Zaldama also in that battle. I mean, look at all of this. 8th down to 13th is very close. And again, all still to play for. Baki without any penalties. He could be jumping up quite a few places from this.
Yeah, he definitely looks like he could be the beneficiary here if he can maintain that record of no penalties to the end of the race. Maledictus may well be lighting up Tin Can, but he has to look over his shoulder as well, because Scuderia SF is charging at him as well as they head down the back straight. There are no moves, I think, are going to be made for the time being. They all still just slot into line and hold firm, hold station in this fight Look at Rick's pace though up the front. He is flying away. An inspired charge from the Flying Finn. Now holds a 1.8 second lead. Is there any way back for Spag here? He is still within penalty range. If Rick were to fumble in the final 3 laps, but at the moment Rick is driving superbly. It's another 3:10 advantage on that last lap. 1.6, 1.7 seconds is the gap that we have. So you can just try and bring this home. Spag, if he can drive perfectly to the end of the race, may still have a chance at this one. But Rick certainly has the upper hand, but it can all change. Maledictus picks up a penalty. And watching Rick, he's flirting with some of these track limits. He's not letting off. Not letting that lead slip away. Less than 3 to go. And Rick could well be heading for a crucial victory here if he just stays on the track. It could be huge for his championship advantage. He may well have a 19-point lead at the end of this round, which will be absolutely key if he wants to try and win this championship. Hardy's charged down, but Rick could be turning the tables here today. From 2.5 laps left from there, Spag chasing him down, but Rick just has to do what he's doing in the moment there, and he could grab his 3rd win of the season and a huge win to contribute towards his championship campaign.
Yeah, he certainly could, Rick. I think this is this is really his to lose now. It's going to be 19 points if he does take this victory, and at the moment it's looking like it was Spag. He's driven. I mean, him and Rick have definitely driven the 2 best so far. Against Slash as well, but it's just with that disconnection was very unfortunate for him. I do feel sorry for Slash because he was doing such a good job at the beginning of this race, and with that disconnection he's now down in 6th position, and I think that's really where he's going to stay. I mean, I don't see he could potentially jump Dylan, but really P5 is the best we're going to see him finish. And again, it's just been unfortunate. Hardy's done a pretty good job as well, of course not being able to keep up with those top 2, but still keeping it penalty free, still making sure that he does finish in a 3rd position to try and maximise as many points as he possibly can. But I've got to say, Spag and Rick, they've been an absolute class of their own so far.
Certainly, but you also have to feel for Slash and for Lando. They held such a convincing early lead, and they've lost out there. They could well have been fighting for the win. I think they both deserve so much better, but you can't change the past, and you can only focus on the present and the future, and that is what we've got ahead of us, because Spag is rallying. Look at that gap come down.
Ooh.
He's now got it down to a 2nd. He's flying at the moment. I'm not sure what you're seeing further down the field there. Tin Can and Malin battling away. Tin Can holds around the outside, will keep that 8th position, but Spag is flying. He's piling that pressure on. 1.5 laps to go. The Ferrari driver still on here. Rick has to try and keep it clean. 7/10 down the gap there. Spag is coming right at him here. This could come down to the final lap here in the US.
Yeah, it certainly could, and yeah, you were right. The battle that I was actually just watching on board, it was with Tin Can and Malin. Malin's just trying to dive it up the inside of the racing point of Tin Can to try and get that position on him. But unfortunately, fortunately for Tin Can, he did manage to hold that position on him. Now Scuderi Seb down the inside of Maledictus, going on towards the DRS straight. A little bit of contact between the pair of them, but I think Seb, he's managed to get that move done, getting the better traction out of that corner. And now Skyzy trying to go past his fellow QVR member. Both side by side now, Mercedes versus Ferrari, going down towards the end of the DRS straight. Are we going to see Skyzy maintain that position? In fact, yeah, Mala's in fact just given that up. So Mala, in the space of just one sector, has now lost out 2 positions to both Seb and Skyzy, and now Seb, from the back of the grid, is now up into P9 and potentially looking to get this P8 stolen from Tin Can.
1 lap left to go. Yeah, Maledictus went on the offensive onto Tin Can, lost out now down to 11th. Let's focus for the last one though, on that spiral over the race lead. Rick has defended superbly, made no mistakes, and avoided the penalties and kept Spag behind. Now just has 1 more lap to try and see this one through. First sector is the main opportunity to pick up penalties, to pick up warnings, and Rick is stealing well away from those track limits. Spag is not, though. He's pushing with everything he has, but the gap's still 1.1. Spag almost going round, just about saves the Ferrari, but that's a few tenths of loss that he cannot afford. So now Rick has a handy advantage. Can Spag charge at him late in the day here? He has more ERS. Rex. He can try to close him down, but the gap is still 1.3 seconds. Rex established himself from the start of this campaign as a championship contender with victory in the second round in Bahrain, one of the closest finishes I've ever seen in racing. Ryan with a penalty, so he may well lose out. He currently sits 7th place, may well have Tin Can and the lights within his sights. We will see, but let's not turn away from this leading fight. The gap now, 1.5 seconds. Is Heartbreak going to come through for the Flying Fed? He's navigating this final sector as well as he can in Spag's challenge, maybe just falling away here on the final lap. He is giving it everything at Spag, but is he going to be too little, too late? Can he not charge at him? Rick looked down and out at the beginning of this race. Brilliant outlap through the pit stop phases to grab the net race lead. Slash was so unlucky, but Rick was there to take advantage and now just has one corner to go. Here to cap off will be a crucial win for the championship. Round the last corner comes Rick, and he is going to win the US Grand Prix. Superbly seen off, and Rick is the winner. Spag, brilliant drive, but has to settle for second. Hardy will hang on to 3rd place and keep his hopes alive. Neil Luigi does jump up to 4th place there. Dylan holds 5th in front of Slash, who really deserved more, but he has to settle for 6th. Rhyme will come over the line and 7th place, but how that last lap penalty affect things? Over the line he comes now. Tin Can will follow him through in 8th place, pulls to the side of the track. He'll lose positions on penalties, I think. Skinner race Skies, he's back, he jumps to Lord of him, goes up into 8th place. Well, that was a rollercoaster of emotions there. Maybe not the most action-packed race, but one that is going to have huge championship implications. Baki does get driver of the day after a disaster in qualifying, recovered well in the race. But Rick did exactly what he needed to do, and he is now your winner. He's held off Spaghetti Chips on this occasion, and he takes another 25 points towards his championship challenge. Game on for the final 3 rounds, but Rick has a huge advantage he can carry forward. Is the Fed finally inside of a championship here?
19 points is now what separates both Hardy and Rick. We could really be seeing Rick... well, it just depends on what's going to go on these last 3 races. Rick, if he just carries on the form as what he's done today, I think this is Rick's championship. To be honest with you, Hardy just got a bit unfortunate at the start of the race. Started on the front row of the grid. He also finished 3rd, so he did do a good job. But Rick started down in 7th and he just drove exceptionally well to take that win. So Rick, he does come home to take the win around the circuit of Americas with Spag in 2nd, Hardy in 3rd. Spag taking his 2nd podium of the season, so very well done to him. Neo Waluigi in P4, I think that is his highest finish as well. Dylan in 5th with Slash in 6th. Again, what could have been for him for tonight. Ryan in 7th with Baki in 8th, one of the only ones as well to also avoid getting himself a penalty. Jumps himself up into P8, so good result from the Polish man. Seb in 9th with Skiesy in 10th, Tin Can 11th, Zarma in 12th, Maledictus in 13th, Lando in 14th, Gary in 15th, Packer in 16th. Of course, Lando, Gary and Packer all DNF in. Zarma only just managing to pick himself up just the 1 point as well. So very odd race, a very good race nonetheless, but it was very odd. And I hope that you guys did enjoy that very odd race. Have you got anything left to say for the stream for us, Dan?
Just want to say that I'm very much looking forward to the final 3 rounds of the championship. Again, that probably wasn't the most action-packed race we saw this season, but I loved the battle between Rick and Spag, when you consider that it was a battle that was planted at the very start of the race. That pit stop phase really made a difference, and Rick drove superbly. Spag gave it his all, just ran out of laps though to really make a big impression, but he still gets his best result of the season. Superb stuff. And I will also say that my 3 bets for the podium finished 2nd, 3rd and 4th in the order that I predicted them. So Rick's kind of spoiling my party there, but I'm pretty pleased with that. It's one of my better ones. But yeah, Rick superbly driving today. We'll see if Hardy can strike back at him though in his final 3 rounds of the season. Game on, I say.
Yeah, definitely game on. 19 points, as I said, separates both of those guys. And as I said, 3 rounds left to go. We go over to Mexico next week. So we'll keep our eye out and see how that is going to fare on. But that has been the Division 2 stream. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll catch you guys next week. Well, maybe not me personally, but we will catch you guys next week for Mexico for round 16.